Deb Murphy filed this report for Sierra Wave Media. After 18 years as Chief Executive Officer of Toiyabe Indian Health Project, David Lent was fired by a board vote of 7-6 on Tuesday. Describing the last 10 weeks as a nightmare, Lent laid into the board before the vote was taken. He announced he had resignation letters from Chief Financial Officer Mary Daniel, Human Resource Manager Cindy Cadu, Medical Director Nancy Fong, and a retirement letter from Chief Operations Officer Rick Fry. All but Fong had been suspended, along with Lent, on July 14th in response to allegations brought by a staff person in the HR department, Geraldine Weaver. Accusing the board of treating the clinic like a political football, Lent said, "You're destroying people's lives and putting the clinic in jeopardy. I don't get it. Some," and he was talking about the board members, "have gone way out there. You should be looking at your communities. We're going to lose providers, people who spent their lives in service to this clinic," end quote. Lent continued, however, "We've worked hard to get here," he said in reference to the less than a year-old clinic on CV Lane, funded by a $14 million federal Department of Agricultural loan. "And you're throwing it all away. Go back to your communities and tell them what you've done. I will not resign. You guys are doing the wrong thing. Some of you are not ready to stand up and let this clinic grow," end quote. Now, one Toiyabe Indian Health Project board member from Big Pine, Dave Moose, tried to stop Lent from speaking prior to the termination vote, but his motion was voted down. Those who voted to terminate Lent were Moose and Gina Jones from the Big Pine Paiute tribe of the Owens Valley, Earlene Williams and Jeff Romero from the Bishop Paiute tribe, White Dove Kennedy from Timbisha Shoshone tribe, and Tina Braithwaite and Shane Salk from the Utu Guadi Paiute tribe. Bridgeport Indian Colony of Henry Glazer, James Ybarra, Lone Pine Paiute Shoshone Reservation, Richard Button, Robert Zucco, and Fort Independence Indian Reservation, Marilyn Bracken, Rick Maddox, voted to keep Lent on board. The chair, George Golson, only votes to break a tie. Deb Murphy continues with one notable irony. The board decided earlier this month to meet with Lent, announcing the fate of the 3 suspended administrators would be in Lent's hand, since the board only had authority over the CEO. After responding to allegations made by Weaver, Lent returned to Toiyabe and brought Fry, Cadu, and Daniel back last week. Now, all 4 are gone. The 7-6 vote has been consistent in the board's dealings with the administrators since the 4 were suspended July 14th. That rift in the 14-member board is one absolute that can be picked out of the rumors and allegations of racism against both non-Native employees at the clinic and non-Native patients. Now, Moose all but confirmed the latter in his response to Lent's statement. Moose's grandmother was one of the delegation to Washington, D.C. 40 years ago, asking for medical care for the county's Native American community. Moose said the tribes were not receiving adequate medical care back then, and the purpose of Toiyabe was to get the best medical services for Native communities. Unfortunately, according to reliable sources, the expansion of services offered by Toiyabe is financially dependent on serving all communities in addition to tribal members. As an example, one of the grant deadlines that passed while the administrators were suspended supports Toiyabe's Colville Clinic. Now, during her brief return to Toiyabe, former CFO Daniel managed to get an extension to the deadline from September 9th to this Friday. The specific grant funding requires the clinics provide services to everyone. Sources have also confirmed to the Bishop Paiute tribe would be held liable for the $14 million loan if Toiyabe goes under. Now, following the official termination of Lent yesterday, the board opted to have the executive committee meet and come up with an action plan to fill the now 5 vacant positions on an interim basis. In the words of one of our sources, Deb Murphy's source, Toiyabe Indian Health Project has been a rudderless ship since July 14th, and we thank Deb for that report. Well, Inyo County issued a lengthy and informative press release today in regards to the Bishop Airport, noting with improvement projects continuing to be completed and efforts to obtain necessary federal certification ongoing, the Bishop Airport is closer than ever to being able to offer commercial air service for the Eastern Sierra. Fresh off the heels of Phase 2 of its passenger traffic study, which included both short and long-term flight forecasts, subsequently approved by the Federal Aviation Administration, the Inyo County Board of Supervisors earlier this month authorized the county's longtime airport consultant to begin work on obtaining the certification needed to accept commercial aircraft at the Bishop facility. Now, according to Inyo County Public Works Director Clint Quilter, Waddell Engineering Corporation will be developing a draft Part 139 Airport Certification Manual, which, after the promising results of the Phase 2 passenger traffic study, felt like the next logical step for the county as it looks at commercial air travel from a regional perspective. Now, the press release says, or quotes, requirements for Part 139 operations are flexible with regard to scope and timing. The draft AMC will provide a starting point for discussions with both the FAA and the Transportation Safety Administration regarding these requirements, Clint Quilter said. County is enthusiastic about moving to this next step. Now, Phase 2, which is yet to be approved, will entail finalizing certification and security plans and actions required for airline service. Now, in the meantime, Inyo County will be wrapping up more improvements at the airport this fall. The $1.8 million project to rehabilitate the aircraft parking apron is about 50% complete and comes on the heels of pavement track repairs, pavement sealing and paint markings, and terminal security fencing that were completed in March to the tune of $1.6 million. Now, since 2013, when the county entered a master agreement for airport improvements project planning and engineering services with Waddell Engineering Corporation, $7.9 million worth of work has been done at the Bishop Airport, according to that press release. Now, airports cannot accept commercial aircraft without Part 139 certification, and the Bishop Airport has not had a Part 139 certificate since the 1990s. Also required in order to accept commercial aircraft is a letter of interest from an airline, which Inyo County received from Legion Air earlier this year. In its February 2017 letter, the airline stated that it has the resources to connect service with a 156-seat A319 2 times a week, initially from Metropolitan Oakland International Airport, as well as LAX and the Phoenix Mesa Gateway Airport, contingent on Bishop Airport meeting the airline's needs as well as state and federal regulations. Now, Inyo County, the press release says, is confident it can do both and points to Allegiance Air initial interest as a good sign for the future of Bishop Airport and reliable commercial air service in the Eastern Sierra. Quoting, Allegiance interest along with the results of the Phase 2 passenger traffic study demonstrate that in addition to an ability to enhance reliability at Mammoth, there is an appetite for air service above and beyond that currently supplied. And again, that was from Clint Quilter. Now, residents of Inyo County, the press release says, have been vocal for many years about the Bishop Airport being developed for the purpose of economic development. Inyo County Board of Supervisors and the county are committed to exploring the option of commercial air service at Bishop Airport and working with neighboring jurisdictions to provide the best commercial air service possible in terms of number of flights and reliability on a regional basis. That press release states the board believes great things will be coming to Bishop Airport and is hopeful the entire Eastern Sierra will benefit as a result. Well, the Inyo National Forest is planning to implement aqueduct prescribed fire this week, weather and air quality conditions permitting. Unit is in the Jeffrey Lodgepole Pine Forest east of Highway 395 near Bald Mountain. Crews may complete up to 400 acres over a 3 to 4 day period. Crews plan to start ignitions Thursday, and 125 acres a day is planned. Smoke obviously may be visible at times from Highway 395, 158, and State Route 203, as well as June Lake, Mammoth Lakes, and Crowley Lake. And the press release notes all prescribed fire activities will be coordinated with the Great Basin Unified Air Pollution Control District in accordance with air resource objectives. We'll be back with more news.